Well, the second candidate for the Chief Justice position, as you just saw, was before the Judicial Service Commission today. Judge Mandisa Maya was asked if South Africa is ready for a female in that position. She called it annoying, also, as you just heard, and believes that women are able to hold power no matter what. She even said that women have been able to hold power for years, so why is it a question now? Also, part 2 of the state capture report has been released with a focus on state-owned enterprises Transnet and Denel. Several current and former cabinet ministers, including Gigaba, Mantashe and Lynn Brown, feature prominently. Joining me now is Power to Truth anchor JJ Tabane. He'll be speaking to self-proclaimed prophet Mboro a little later. We'll talk about that also. But JJ, let's start with Judge Mandisa Maya.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at her today at the Judicial Service Commission, we were blown away by her answers.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
What do you make of it all?
Fantastic. And she's quite right. This thing about are people ready for a woman, this or that, is all bloody chauvinistic nonsense, honestly, you know. I mean, we've got a Speaker of Parliament, we've had a Speaker of Parliament for years with women, from Frini Gunwala to Mapisa Ngakula, incompetent as she may be. But, you know, all I'm saying is that women, like men, can be competent or incompetent, can be in any of these state pillars. They could be president tomorrow and so on. So always when there is a contestation with men, people will say, oh, we're not ready. The ANC Women's League president a few years ago said, we're not too ready for a woman president of the ANC. The ANC has had men presidents since 1912. And it's crazy, right? So I think, forget about the fact that she's a woman. This is a competent woman judge who has really done well in the Supreme Court of Appeal. She's a president of Supreme Court of Appeal. Why can't she be Chief Justice? I don't understand that question.
Yeah.
And she was right to label it annoying.
Yeah. And the first...
She should have labeled it silly.
Say again?
She should have labeled it silly.
Yeah. I mean, you could see that she was outraged by the question because it was raised yesterday as well with the previous candidate. And there was an annoyance from the people who are asking the questions because they didn't get an answer yesterday as well. But I think she basically summarized it, wrapped it up and said, this is nonsense. I'm here about what I've done, what I've been able to achieve.
But so far, because we only have 2 candidates, there's still 2 more to go, I think she's a better of the 2 for now. So she's, for me, a front runner. In terms of that, it would be fantastic for the country, for the judiciary, and also in terms substantial, in terms of the things that she's talking about. If you look at this debate that Linda Sule started about the Constitution and what on earth is going on, you need a judicial leader who's not going to be shy to engage in debates like that, because it's 25 years of the Constitution. Does it mean we must leave it as it is, or must it mean we must be critical of it so that it can be a better instrument of change for our people? I think so we don't need somebody who's shy of issues of transformation, somebody who's shy to engage in how we take the country forward, because the Constitution is key in terms of changing the lives of our people going forward. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these. All right, let's move over to part 2 of the state capture report. Sally and I got it at 4:30, so half an hour before we got to air, and we were trying to skim read it, which is impossible.
It's impossible.
It's over 700 pages.
I'm not even a quarter away.
Exactly. The one thing I picked up was the enablers of state capture. And Gigaba's name pops up very clearly when it comes to issues at SOEs when he was Public Enterprises Minister. Today, though, he issued a tweet. I think it was actually yesterday. Let's bring that tweet up. And he says, 3 years and 1 billion rand later, DCJ Raymond Zondo has found no evidence to warrant a recommendation that I be charged with corruption. Instead of clearing me, he asks that an investigation into some, hoping that this will kill me politically, if only he and his handlers knew. Now, I read the part on the recommendations. It does say that law enforcement agencies need to probe him, which could possibly lead to prosecution. So that doesn't mean he's cleared.
No, he's not cleared. The Zondo Commission is not NPA. If it was, half of these people would have already been arrested, right? So he knows this. Malu is a very bright guy. He's about to finish his PhD. He's one of the brightest leaders of the Youth League, and he understands what's going on, in that the Zondo Commission could not possibly find him guilty on a trial. It was an inquiry. An inquiry would either say, we think there was something wrong here, and this is conclusive, or to say, it's inconclusive, please investigate. That's what you expect of everybody mentioned there. In fact, it should be good for him, because then if the NPA investigates and and finds that he's not to be prosecuted, then he'll be scot-free. Whatever Zondo said would become irrelevant, right? So I don't think, I spoke to him to say, please come and let's talk, but he's agreed to talk after the third part is out, which I think is interesting, because if he has issued a tweet like that, he's already commenting. But anyway, we take what we can get. So he says, I'll come after the third part. Why? Because the third part may still, point the finger at him on other aspects of what he testified in relation to the Guptas and so on. The third part is going to be big on the Guptas. And I don't think he's going to survive that, personally. But with politics, anything can happen. Yes, of course, this thing is going to affect him politically. But that's not Judge Zondo's job. Judge Zondo's job is to inquire and put the facts on the table in the best way that he can. If that affects you politically, that's just tough. That's just tough. His job is, whether you say 1 billion later, yes, sorry about that, but his job is to say, this is what went wrong. And so far with part one, he's telling us there was state capture, full on. And now he's given what I can call a gallery of rogues, where he says, here are the bad guys, right? And they must be charged, they must be investigated and so on in order to conclude that job. So the loop must be closed by the NPA. There's no escape about that.
A gallery of rogues. We must actually put that up here on this wall.
I thought I was going to do that, but
with faces.
I only have time tonight.
So this is also something that many people are talking about. Mantashe, he's obviously a minister of Minerals and Energy in South Africa. And the report states that Mantashe's account before the commission regarding the appointment of Siyabonga Gama as Transnet Group CEO was implausible and inconsistent with the facts. Obviously, he's been asked about it already, and he says he's not ready to comment.
You know what Ramaphosa did here? And it's a master stroke. He says, give me 4 months to think so that you don't pressure me, right? And by the way, if he didn't release the report, it was going to be chaos. First, it was going to leak. We know that. It was going to leak, and then it was going to be just chaos. So he's given himself these months so that he can manage the politics of this. He has now appointed a committee in the ANC to tell him what to do. We know that he's not too much decisive when it comes to discipline issues and so on. It's his Achilles heel, right? So what does he do? He gets some other people to tell him so that he can clean his hands and say, it's not me, it's a committee. Exactly as it's going to happen with the Zondo. He says, no, Zondo has said this, so the committee must tell me what to do. What will that do? It will empower him to fire the likes of Mantashe, who's chairman of the ANC. You can't just wake up and fire chairman. Your boss, because that's what really it is, So to do that, he has to create a committee that would say, we don't have a choice, can Gwede please resign and so on. But don't expect Gwede for any conscience to kick in. That you can forget it, especially Gwede. Gwede's conscience died long ago, along with many other leaders of the ANC. So don't expect them to act on their own. Don't expect him to step aside. Expect him to be suspended when that committee comes and finds that. But remember, if too many of these guys who are decision makers in the NEC are implicated by all these 3 reports, you are likely to see what happened in 2009 when Zuma was charged with 700 charges. And the likes of Sisulu, who thinks we've forgotten now, were a committee that said, this is persecution, leave him alone. That's what's going to happen now. They will say, no, Ramaphosa is using the NPA to campaign for 2022, therefore, let's suspend this thing.
But what does that do for Ramaphosa at the elective conference? Because publicly, we see what's happening, and you already have drawn the links. Within the party, there are people who will be angry and who will know that ultimately he's allowed all of this to happen. Never mind, a committee has been set up and they say, this is what you must do. What does it mean for him?
He needs just to be lucky that he's not himself implicated by any of these reports. Because that's going to murky the water even more. If he's implicated, then he'll be, in a sense, emasculated from acting, right? Remember, no matter how naive we may want to be, don't think that the NPA, right, of today and the NPA of Zuma is the same. It's not. They have to respond to their mood in the country. What is the mood in the country? Being fed up with corruption and so on. And you think, by the way, because of that mood, the presidency will take the lead. But they go to Scopa and say, oh, sorry, people who have implicated in the SIU, there's nothing we have done so far. They've got 6 weeks to go. So maybe we mustn't be too quick to judge them. But they fail to do something in 3 months and we hope they'll do it in 6 weeks, I'm not too confident about it. But we need to set an example, right? The NPA right now has enough evidence to arrest some of these guys. Because you can't tell me they were sleeping for 3 years waiting for Zondo to finish. I mean, Zondo did not replace the NPA. Was simply doing an inquiry. And as these things were coming out, that's why they were able to take a greasy and arrest him.
Yeah.
They must do the same with these others. And until we see a big fish, Shahan, we're interested in a small fish. People are sent to go and murder people. No. We're interested in a big fish. Who's instructing these people to act like rogues? Until we have somebody in cuffs, Zweli Mkhize in cuffs, some of these guys who are stealing in prison, people are not going to take all these things seriously. Yeah. And it will be seen only just as a waste of money and another commission that's going to be a whitewash or that's going to be thrown into the dustbin.
Okay, I have been told to end this because we're out of time.
Okay.
But I have to ask you, and Aisha can yell at me afterwards. Yeah. I have to ask you about Pastor Mboro being your guest, because when Gloria, your producer, told me about this, I was like, what on earth are you guys doing? Yeah. This man last week stood outside court and said that if you want to become gay, it's okay, but don't molest boys. As if you choose to become gay, and if gay people molest boys. The most ridiculous statements ever. So what are you doing talking to him?
He's going to come and account about all those statements tonight. But here's a big thing, right? We are in the midst of moral depravity. All these things you are hearing, pastors raping kids or grooming people, youngsters for sexual, satisfaction, it shows moral depravity, and it's only a tip of the iceberg. I'm asking him, is the church, right, part of making that worse? You've just mentioned now here, we expect the church, for example, like Desmond Tutu would say, that if I have a God that is homophobic, then I don't want that God. Yeah. So I'm going to ask him, I'm going to put him, your question, I'll put it squarely, believe me, I'll put it squarely to him, but I want him to answer, what must we do now going forward? If the church is an instrument of moral, campus, it's also collapsing. We also have these false prophets. Yeah. What must we do? And I think tonight the spotlight is on the church in general, but also society broadly, in as far as moral regeneration is concerned.
All right, thanks for that. I can't wait to see that happen after 8 o'clock. As you can see on your screens, JJ Tabane speaking to Pastor Mboro.